Some betrayals don't come with shouting. They come with a smile at the kitchen table, a family laugh that lands like a slap. And the worst part is how fast your mind tries to excuse it because we're taught to keep the peace, to be the bigger person, to swallow the sting and call it love. Tonight's story isn't here so we can cheer when someone gets what they deserve, and it's not here to put anyone on trial in our hearts. It's a quiet walk through a moment that felt like the end, money missing, trust shattered, and a mother saying, "You can't do anything like that sentence was a cage. We're just going to listen, breathe, and notice what pain does to a person when it's wrapped in familiar voices. Because sometimes the door doesn't open with comfort. Sometimes it opens with a knock so hard the whole house trembles. And one person stepping inside changes everything." I was trembling, reaching into my bag, ready to say, "Don't worry about what happens next," while they laughed like I was harmless. If you've ever been used by the people you protected, stay with me. Let's go back to the morning after my brother's wedding when I checked my account and 8.4K was gone. My name is Briar Caldwell, and I'm not telling you this for revenge. I'm telling you because for years, I thought being the good one meant staying quiet, paying up, and swallowing the hurt. If you've ever been used by the people who were supposed to love you, you'll understand why my hands were trembling that day. But before I tell you everything, I just want to know you're here with me. Drop a simple hi in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. Sometimes knowing someone is listening makes the loneliness lighter. And if you want more true confessional stories like this, stories about family betrayal, boundaries, and finally taking your life back, please subscribe. It helps more than you think. Thank you. And now, let me tell you what really happened. The morning sun poured through the arched windows of our boutique hotel suite in Charleston, but even the golden light couldn't touch the weight sitting in my chest. My body still ached from the day before, 12 hours on my feet, smoothing every bump in the road for my little brother Jace's wedding. The photographer was late, the florist forgot half the centerpieces, and someone, probably my mom, forgot to tip the shuttle drivers, so I did it all. Quietly, like I always do. Because I'm Briar Caldwell, the oldest, the one with the stable income, the one everyone expects to fix everything. I reached for my phone to pay the hotel bill and opened my banking app out of habit. Reese was in the shower. Her voice floated from the bathroom as she rehearsed closing arguments for a trial back in Denver, calm and focused like always. I blinked at the screen once, then again, and again. My checking account, which should have had well over $10,000, was now sitting at $1,592.23. I froze. By the time Reese stepped out, towel around her waist, my hands were shaking. She looked at me, then at the phone in my hand. "What's wrong?" I turned the screen toward her. Reese's eyes narrowed instantly. She took the phone, tapped a few times, then muttered, "Jesus, there are 3 transfers here." She read aloud, her voice growing tighter with each line. $200 to a credit card in Maribel Caldwell's name, $2,500 wired to Grant Holloway, and $2,700 deposited into an account under Denise Caldwell. My stomach dropped. Reese turned to me, dead serious. "Did you give your mom your phone or Mari?" "No," I whispered. I left it charging on the dresser while I showered last night. But no, I didn't hand it to anyone. "Briar," she said slowly. "These transfers happened last night. One at 8:47 p.m., another at 8:53, and the last at 9:10. I remembered that time. I'd been in the shower, half asleep from exhaustion. I thought I heard a laugh outside the door, but I chalked it up to wedding noise from the hallway. I remember coming out and finding my phone unplugged and slightly warm in my hand. Reese grabbed her phone, opened her banking app. "Call your bank now, freeze your accounts, change your passwords, and activate 2-factor authentication. I'll talk you through it. But my mom's name is on one of them." "Exactly," she snapped, which means they didn't even try to hide it. As I sat on hold with the bank's fraud line, my mother's voice echoed in my head, her words from 2 nights before the wedding, when I offered to cover the reception costs after the caterer bailed. "You're the oldest," she'd said. "You have more means than your brother." Reese leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Briar, you need to understand, if this were a stranger who accessed your account without permission, you'd call the police immediately. Just because it's your family doesn't make it any less criminal." I didn't respond. Not because I disagreed. but because somewhere inside I already knew she was right. The call to the bank went quickly. They flagged the transactions, initiated a freeze, and filed an incident report. I'd get a call from the fraud department later that day. As I ended the call, my phone buzzed. It was my mom. I answered, putting her on speaker. "Mom." "Hi, sweetheart." She chirped like nothing had happened. "I just wanted to say thank you again for everything you did for Jace's wedding. It was beautiful." "Mom," I said flatly. "Where's my money?" There was a pause. Then laughter. "Oh, that," she said with a little chuckle. "Well, Mari noticed you had a good bit in your account and thought it made sense to redistribute a little. You know, keep things fair. You took $8,400. You're the big brother. You've always had more. You can't seriously be upset about this. I didn't give anyone permission." "Come on, honey," she said, in that faux sweet tone she used when I was a kid and caught her in a lie. "It's family. You can't do anything." Reese's face turned to stone. She mouthed, "Put her on speaker." I already had. "Mom," I said, my voice flat. "We're coming over. Now." Briar. But I ended the call. The drive from Charleston to Mount Pleasant was silent except for Reese typing on her phone, pulling up the banking logs and capturing screenshots. I stared out the window as the marshland blurred past. "She said you couldn't do anything," Reese muttered. "Briar, that means she doesn't just think you won't. She thinks you can't." My mouth was dry. She's my mom. She's also someone who watched her daughter steal your phone and transfer money while you were in the shower. I said nothing. But her next question burrowed deep into my brain. "Did you ever let any of them take a photo of your ID? Do they know your security questions I couldn't answer?" Because I suddenly remembered a family BBQ 3 months ago when my mom helped me sign up for a flight rewards program on my laptop. I'd handed her my driver's license to type in the number while grilling. She'd held it up to the light and snapped a photo just in case. I hadn't thought of it since, until now. When we pulled up to my parents' house, the air around me changed. Their front lawn looked exactly as it had for 20 years, pristine with the same rocking chairs on the porch. You'd never guess what was boiling inside. We walked into the living room. Everyone was there. Mom perched on the arm of the couch, Mari and Grant sipping coffee like it was brunch, and my dad reading the Post and Courier like I was just dropping in for a casual visit. I didn't sit. I looked directly at my mother. Who went into my account, Mari was the one to answer. She sipped her drink and said I did. "Your password was laughably easy. You always use some variation of your graduation date." I just guessed. Grant chimed in. "You live alone. You make great money. We've got 2 kids. Come on, Briar." I turned to my dad. "You're just gonna sit there." He glanced over his glasses. "Don't bring outsiders into family matters." I felt my body lock into place. "Give it back," I said. "It's already gone." Mari shrugged. Part of it was a wedding gift for Jace. The rest helped pay off some debt. And we bought a few things. Essentials. My mom stood up and smiled. "Sweetheart, you really can't do anything. You'd embarrass yourself." That was when my hand moved. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick folder. Her smile faltered for just a second. I placed it gently on the coffee table. "Don't worry about what happens next," I said, cold and even. They all started laughing until the front door shook from a violent knock. A second bang followed. Then a third. When the door opened and they saw who walked in next, the room went dead silent. Detective Marisol Vega didn't look like a threat. She was petite, composed, and spoke with calm precision that cut sharper than any raised voice could. She flashed her badge as she stepped over the threshold. "Detective Vega, Financial Crimes Unit," she said. "I need everyone to remain calm." Mari's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. My mom looked like she might faint. Sir Vega turned to me. "You're Briar Caldwell." I nodded. She gave a small nod and pulled a notepad from her jacket. "You filed a fraud report this morning, correct? We reviewed the initial information." Due to the amount, the number of beneficiaries, and the fact that the suspected parties are close family members, it triggered an expedited field investigation. That's why I'm here. Excuse me? My mom snapped. You're bringing police into my house. Vega didn't even blink. This is a financial investigation. You're not under arrest. But I need to ask each of you a few questions. Grant stood up. This has to be some mistake. Maybe the bank glitched. Breyer's just confused. Reese stepped forward and opened the folder. Inside were printed screenshots of every transfer with timestamps, the log from the bank, my ID, my phone access records, all of it. Vega took one glance and said, "Thank you." Then she turned to Mari. "How did you gain access to his account?" Mari's voice was barely a whisper. "He uses the same kind of password all the time. Graduation dates, dog names. Did anyone else assist you?" Mari looked at my mother. And then it happened. She said, "Well, Mom told me he always uses the same answer to security questions. She helped me guess it last year when I locked myself out of Netflix." Vega scribbled something down. "So your mother knew or had access to his security answers." My stomach turned. Denise stepped in, her voice climbing. "This is ridiculous. You're twisting things. We didn't steal, we just redistributed. We're a family," Ma'am Vega said flatly. "Accessing someone's bank account without authorization is a felony, whether you're related or not." My dad barked from the corner. "This is still my house, and I don't allow strangers interrogating my family under my roof." Vega ignored him. She pointed to the log. "We also noticed a failed transaction early this morning, another transfer attempt for $1,500 that was flagged and denied by the bank's risk algorithm." I froze. They'd tried to take more. This wasn't a one-time lapse. This was a pattern. A system. Vega turned to me. "We'll need 3 years of financial records, any texts or emails where they asked for money, and any other documentation showing pressure or coercion." Reese placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. "We already started compiling." Vega nodded, then faced the others. "No one is being arrested today, but you will be contacted for formal interviews. I strongly recommend you speak to a lawyer." As we turned to leave, my mother's voice cut through the silence behind me. "Breyer," she called. "You're really going through with this." I didn't stop walking. Her voice rose again. "You're doing this to your own blood." Outside, Reese opened the car door. As I climbed in, Vega looked at me one last time. "We've seen this before. The people closest to you often think they're entitled to your silence." I nodded, but it was Reese who whispered the words I wouldn't forget. "If they did this once," she said, "they've probably done it before. You just didn't see it." Jace opened the door looking like someone who hadn't slept since his wedding. His smile faltered the second he saw my face. We weren't supposed to see each other again until after his honeymoon, but I needed to speak to him before he disappeared into some island dream, while the rest of us were stuck cleaning up the war zone. We sat in the cramped living room of the rental he and Heather had booked in Charleston. I didn't bother with small talk. "They said the money was a wedding gift for you," I told him, keeping my voice low. Jace's head jerked up. "What money?" I told him everything, how $8,400 vanished from my account overnight, how 3 separate transactions went out under my name, how 2 of them went directly into Mari and Grant's accounts, the third, our mother's. Jace blinked like I'd slapped him. "I didn't know. I swear. I thought you offered to help with the flowers. And the DJ." "I did," I said. "But this wasn't that." He looked like he was shrinking in front of me. "Please don't make this explode. Mom's been saying you're overreacting, that it was all a misunderstanding." I didn't respond. I just watched him for the first time, not as my baby brother, but as a man being shoved into a war he never asked to fight, a pawn trying to protect both sides. And I hated that it made me feel guilty. By the time Reese and I got back to Denver, the guilt had calcified into something sharper, something organized. We turned the dining table into a war room. Folders, flash drives, notebooks. Reese set up a shared drive to store everything we found. Her calm efficiency grounded me. I didn't know how I would have done this without her. We pulled up my bank records, messaging history, Venmo, PayPal, email threads, even texts I'd forgotten about. "You deleted some of these, didn't you?" Reese asked quietly as she restored a backup. "Yeah," I admitted. "I used to get overwhelmed. I figured if I didn't see them, it would stop feeling like I was always being asked for something." But now, reading them again, I realized how methodical it all was. They started small, $100 for school supplies, $50 for pizza night. Then it turned into, "We're short on rent," or "Can you cover daycare just this month?" Always wrapped in guilt. Always near a family milestone, a birthday, a graduation, a Sunday dinner. They didn't even wait between asks sometimes. I'd say yes, and another request would come days later, like an automated withdrawal. Keaton Price, the financial abuse attorney Reese connected us with, confirmed what we feared. "This is a textbook pattern," he said on the Zoom call, voice steady. "They trained you, Breyer, slowly, strategically. You were the emergency fund they could guilt into silence." I ran a tally of the last 3 years. The number made my stomach turn. It wasn't just a few grand here and there. It was nearly $40,000. More than my car cost. More than most people's student loans. "You're not crazy," Reese said when she saw my face. "They did this with intention." Then came the part that chilled me. I found 3 recurring transactions, small ones. $30, $45, $62. Same day, every month. Different descriptions: family lunch, baby clothes, field trip. I had no memory of sending those. No messages referencing them. No receipts. I stared at the line items. "I don't remember this. I didn't send these." "Then someone else did," Reese said. "Or someone accessed your account." Suddenly I was back in every family dinner, every time my phone sat unattended, every sleepover at Mom's when I was too tired to care. It didn't feel like theft. It felt like they believed they had a right. That night the group chat started lighting up. "Mari. My account's been frozen. What the hell, Mom? I told you, dragging family through this makes you look worse than us." Grant. "You're letting some outsider manipulate you. Real men don't betray blood." Dad. "This ends now. Or you're not my son." Every message tried to paint Reese as the villain. Not once did they ask how I was. Not once did anyone say sorry. I didn't answer them. I turned off my phone and opened an old email account I hadn't touched in years. A backup for work, mostly junk. But buried under a newsletter was an email from Mari dated 3 weeks before the wedding. Subject: weekend planning. The body of the email was short, but what it said stopped my breath. "If we time it right, he'll be distracted with wedding chaos. He always leaves his phone out. Mom says we'll split the gift evenly. Don't worry, he won't even notice. He never does." Attached was a screenshot. It was blurry, but it was unmistakably my security question page. Favorite teacher, childhood pet, first car. I'd sent Mom that information once years ago when she needed to reset her own password and didn't understand the interface. I'd forgotten all about it, but clearly she hadn't. I dropped the laptop onto the table like it burned. "This wasn't spontaneous," I whispered. "This was planned." Reese didn't flinch. "Now you know what you're fighting. And it's not just ignorance. It's entitlement with a strategy." I sat there for a long time. Then I stood up and deleted the family group chat. From here on out, I said they don't get to talk to me like I'm still the one holding it all together. We finalized the case file on a Wednesday. Denver was icy, but inside our apartment the air burned with focus. Reese built a spreadsheet that spanned 3 years of damage dates, amounts, explanations, or lack thereof. I compiled screenshots of texts, emails, guilt trips, and fake emergencies. Keaton helped us label everything under legal terms: coercion, unauthorized access, manipulation. I called the bank's fraud department and requested a device access log. That's when I got the second real punch to the gut. The representative confirmed that yes, someone had accessed my account from a different IP address the night before the wedding. A tablet, registered in Mount Pleasant. Not my device. They hadn't just guessed my password while I was in the shower. They'd been preparing. I took the report straight to Reese. They used something else. Something I didn't even know existed. Reese looked at me like she wanted to throw something. They knew you'd never question them. That was the first vulnerability, not your password. Your loyalty. We packed everything into a folder, literal and digital, and drove straight to the Financial Crimes Unit in Aurora. Vega met us in a glass-walled conference room, calm and expressionless. She didn't say much, just nodded as I laid out the pieces. My voice shook when I handed over the screenshot of my mother's old message with the security answers. This wasn't just family overreach, I said. This was theft. And they knew exactly what they were doing. Vega glanced through the binder and closed it gently. We'll begin interviews this week. We barely made it home before the next wave hit. Text messages, voicemails, emails, Facebook comments from second cousins. Mari sent a group-wide email calling me emotionally unstable, claiming Reese was a controlling outsider poisoning our family. My father posted on his neighborhood forum accusing me of abandoning family for money. My mother sent me a picture of her wedding ring captioned, "You're breaking more than accounts, son." Then came the calls to my office. "Hi, I'm trying to reach Briar Caldwell. I'm his mother. Can you confirm he still works there?" I only found out because our front desk flagged it as unusual. Reese looked at me across the kitchen. "This is escalation. They want to make you unstable enough to fold." I didn't fold, but I did shake when I saw them. Mari and Denise, standing right outside my building. Mari held a binder. Denise wore pearls like it was church. "We came to talk," Mari said. "No," I said. "You came to pressure me. There's a difference." Mari tried first. "You know we love you, right? But this, going to the cops. You're destroying us." "Yourself," Denise added coldly. "Don't you see how far you've drifted since dating her?" I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was surreal. "You stole from me, and you want me to apologize for noticing they didn't answer." Mari only hissed. "We're not scared of court. We know things too." I didn't ask what. I just stepped back, pulled out my phone, and hit record. "You need to leave," I said, steady now. "This is harassment." Mari scoffed. "We gave you everything, and you repay us like this." I didn't blink. "You gave me expectations. That's not the same." The next day, Detective Vega called. "We have their interview scheduled. Just a heads up, things might escalate." I glanced toward the front window. I already knew they would. It started with a text from Reese before I even had coffee. Mari's account triggered an alert. Bank contacted her directly. Vega's office is pulling data. Then another one followed. "Check your email, Keaton sent you a new intake form." I sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug I wasn't drinking from, staring out into the gray Denver skyline. A quiet morning with a storm underneath. By noon, Mari's panic had begun bleeding through my phone. "You went too far, Briar. Why would you do this? I can't even access my savings right now. Do you realize what you've done to our family?" No apology. No denial. Just panic. For themselves. I didn't have time to respond because Jace called. "Please," he said. "Don't hang up. Just meet me. One time. Somewhere neutral." I didn't want to. I didn't trust myself to look at him and not think of that wedding, of the toast I gave, of the envelope I handed Mari, thinking I was blessing his new chapter, not funding a crime. But I said yes. We met in a nearly empty cafe near City Park. Neutral ground-wide windows, early enough no one else was watching. Reese waited in the car just in case. Jace looked like he hadn't slept since the honeymoon ended. Pale hollow under his eyes, like guilt had been keeping him company. I didn't know he said before he even sat down. Not everything. But I knew something wasn't right. I didn't say anything. I wanted him to speak. "They said you'd never notice, that it was just a transfer to help cover things." Mari joked about waiting until you're distracted. I thought she meant asking for help, not he swallowed stealing. "You heard them plan it?" I said, not a question. He nodded, shoulders folding in. "I thought it was harmless. I didn't think they'd take that much. I didn't think you'd get hurt like this." I should have said something. You let me walk into my own ambush, I said softly. I was scared of what they'd do, of what would happen to the wedding. I just wanted peace. You didn't get peace, Jace. You got silence. There's a difference. He didn't argue. He just looked down at his hands like he wasn't sure they belonged to him anymore. That night, Reese and I sat with Keaton going over possible counters. Grant had started hinting to people that I had consented to the money being used, that I helped out more than I remember. Reese pulled up a screenshot from over a year ago, me replying to a message from Grant with, "We'll figure it out. They'll twist that Reese warned. They'll build a story out of scraps. They don't have facts," Keaton added. "But they'll muddy the timeline, make it look like you were part of it until you weren't. It's projection. It's survival instinct. Survival." That word came up again later when Denise called crying. "Frank can't sleep. I can't breathe. People are talking. You've brought shame on this family. Mom, I was robbed. You were family. And now you're a lawsuit. Are you happy now? Is this what Reese taught you?" That last line struck hard, like I was some puppet, not a grown man reclaiming his life. I hung up. She didn't call back. Later that week, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just one sentence on the back of the envelope, "I believe you." Inside was a folded page, neat typewritten, from Hayden Kessler. "I'm not part of their immediate circle," the letter began, "but I know what Grant and Mari are capable of. I've watched them manipulate money out of cousins, guilt-trip older relatives, even forge signatures. If this case continues, I'm willing to speak on what I know." I read it 3 times, a crack in the wall. Before leaving our meeting, Jace said one more thing. "They're planning something. I heard Mom say they might come to Denver again, but this time, it's not to talk." Reese pressed her hand on my shoulder when I told her. "Then we prepare. Cameras, locks, legal steps." I nodded. "If they want a war, they'll find out this time." I came armed. By the end of the week, my home felt less like a place to live and more like a surveillance post. Cameras covered the front and back entryways. I kept a spare recorder in my jacket pocket, my phone always in Do Not Disturb with select emergency contacts. I double-checked the peephole before opening the door. The trauma didn't just come from what they took. It came from not knowing how far they'd go to keep it. At Keaton's office, we filled out the first draft of the protective order. "You have enough," he said. "Multiple in-person confrontations, text messages that sound like threats, attempted access to financial data. This isn't overreacting. This is smart." Then came the alert from my bank. There was a failed attempt to reset your security questions. Call us if this wasn't you. I hadn't even used those recovery questions in years. The only people who'd ever known my high school mascot or my favorite childhood toy were family. "They're still trying to get in," I told Reese. "Phew, they're not done." She was quiet, lips pressed together, then finally said, "Let's make sure we are." Detective Vega called the next morning. "Mari and Grant's interviews are complete. Their stories don't match, and we have sufficient technical evidence to move toward formal charges." My breath caught. "They will be notified soon," she continued. "The DA's office is reviewing for probable cause filings. It's moving fast now. And the others, Denise Frank. If more evidence ties them in, especially with digital trails or communication encouraging the crime, they could be named in future filings, civil or criminal. But for now, our focus is Mari and Grant." That night, as if summoned by the tension, Frank called. His voice was ice. The kind of cold you can't warm back up. "I heard from your mother," he said. "She's not eating. I'm ashamed of what this family has become. I didn't make it this way, Dad. I just stopped playing along. You embarrassed us. You turned on blood. You betrayed your name." There was silence. Then finally, "As far as I'm concerned, I don't have a son anymore." He hung up. I didn't move, didn't speak. Just stared at the floor as the ache hollowed out something in me I didn't even know was still intact. When Reese came home, she found me there. Quiet, motionless. She sat beside me and whispered, "You didn't lose them today. You just finally saw what they are." I leaned into her, silent, breathing, letting it land. Then came a message from Jace. They're planning to pin it all on you and Reese before the hearing. I can't take it anymore. I looked up at Reese. Then we don't just defend ourselves anymore. We build our case. We go in ready to show everything. She nodded. Then we do it right. That night I didn't dream of weddings or bank statements. I dreamed of a courtroom, of chairs full of people forced to see the truth. And for the first time, I was ready for them to look. The morning of the hearing, my stomach was empty, but my head was clear. Reese checked every document one last time: bank records, screenshots, the fraud report, hallway camera footage. Keaton reminded me that today wasn't about winning. It was about drawing a legal line that couldn't be crossed. At the courthouse, I faced them without shrinking. Mari and Grant sat with their attorney. Denise and Frank stood behind them, rigid. Denise tried to lean toward me and whisper that I could still stop this. Reese stepped in front of me before I had to answer. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to smooth things over. Then Jace walked in. His eyes were red, his hands clenched. He told Keaton he wanted to testify. He said he couldn't stay silent anymore. Something loosened in my chest. I wasn't alone. In court, Keaton laid it out cleanly: the $400 taken while I was in the shower, the transfers to Mary, Grant, and Denise, the 3-year pattern of pressure and guilt, the uninvited appearances in Denver. Bank data showed access from a device that wasn't mine, and a blocked attempt to take more. Jace testified that the plan existed before the wedding. He said they waited for a moment I'd be distracted. He said Denise knew my security answers and believed resetting access would be easy. He admitted he stayed quiet because he was afraid of his mother and afraid of ruining the wedding. Mari exploded, calling him a liar. Frank stared at Jace like he'd never seen him before. Their attorney tried to claim I was being controlled by Reese, that I'd changed. The judge shut it down, reminding the room that evidence mattered more than family narratives. The court issued a temporary restraining order and moved the case forward. As we left, Mari looked scared for the first time. Grant took a call and went pale. Jace leaned toward me and said he was ready to lose them if it meant I didn't lose myself. The balance had shifted. The days after the restraining order were quiet in a way I wasn't used to. I slept without checking the door. Still, the loss lingered. Reese reminded me the process wasn't over, only stabilized. An email arrived from Hayden Kessler. He confirmed Grant and Mari had taken money from other relatives for years and relied on shame to keep people silent. He offered to testify if needed. Reading it, I finally understood this wasn't personal weakness. It was a system. Keaton later told us Mari and Grant chose to plead guilty to reduce exposure. The court ordered probation, full repayment of the $400 damages for emotional harm, and a 5-year no-contact order. They delayed payment. The court enforced it. Accounts were frozen, assets seized. Grant lost his job. Their house slipped toward foreclosure. I felt a flicker of guilt, then remembered my mother laughing, telling me I couldn't do anything. Jace came to Denver and told me he'd been cut off. He didn't regret it. He said he wanted a family built on honesty, not extraction. I realized blood didn't make a family, choice did. Reese took me to dinner with her mother. It was simple calm. She said, "In this house, respect is the boundary. No one uses love to take." That sentence healed something old in me. We drove out to Evergreen and sat by the water, no speeches, just air and quiet. I thought about my mother's words again. You can't do anything. I did. Not by yelling. Not by revenge. But by refusing to let exploitation keep wearing the name of family. I never thought it would come to this. Not in the way that people say it when life surprises them, but in the quieter, lonelier sense. I used to believe that if I just stayed kind enough, patient enough, forgiving enough, they'd come around. That the people I called family would one day look at me and see someone worth protecting, someone worth loving without taking. I thought blood meant something unbreakable, but what I've learned is this blood only binds what respect maintains. I didn't grow up believing I'd ever see my name printed in a court order against the people who raised me. I didn't picture myself reading over financial fraud reports with my hands shaking or meeting with attorneys about how to document emotional manipulation. And I sure as hell didn't expect to be sitting outside a courtroom watching the only sibling who ever looked me in the eye admit that he knew and stayed silent. And yet here I am. They took money. They took memories. They took my belief in the idea that family always has your back. But they didn't take me. I still have my voice. I still have my truth. I still have my choice. And in choosing to stand up for my name, my work, my future, I found something they couldn't steal: peace. Peace doesn't come easy. It doesn't come with slamming doors or courtroom verdicts. It comes when you finally stop internalizing their shame. When you stop calling survival overreacting. When you stop trying to shrink yourself into the version of you that makes other people comfortable. I look around now and see the life I'm building slowly, brick by brick. A life where my value isn't conditional. Where I love you doesn't come with a receipt. Where I don't have to hand over pieces of myself just to belong. Jace is still here. So is Reese. And in their own ways, they remind me chosen family is not second best. It's sacred. It's honest. It's earned. The kind of loyalty that doesn't demand silence in the face of harm but stands with you when you call it out. If you've made it this far reading my story, walking through the debris of what I used to call home, I want to say thank you. Not just for listening, but for staying. Maybe you've been here before. Maybe you're here now. Wondering if you're crazy. Wondering if the hurt is your fault. Wondering if it's worth speaking up. Let me say this: it is. It's worth every sleepless night and every difficult conversation. It's worth standing in court when your legs feel like glass. It's worth drawing lines that others call cruel, because those lines are where you begin to heal. And if this story gave you even 1 ounce of courage or clarity or comfort, I'm honored. There are more stories like this. Stories of reclaiming power, of breaking cycles, of defining family on your own terms. And I want to keep telling them for you, for me, for everyone who's ever been made to feel small in their own skin. So if you believe in truth and healing, in the quiet strength of walking away from what doesn't love you back, subscribe. Join me. Let's stop surviving in silence. Let's start living out loud. When the door finally stopped shaking and the room went quiet, I realized something that took me a long time to admit out loud. The hardest part wasn't the money. It was seeing how easily love can get mixed up with entitlement, how quickly family can become a word people use to reach into your pockets and into your peace. And I don't say that to turn anyone into a villain. I say it because some of us spend years paying a price we never agreed to just to keep a picture of closeness from cracking. Maybe that's the small thing we can carry out of this together. Sometimes what saves us isn't a louder voice or a colder heart. Sometimes it's one clear boundary, one honest step, and the courage to stop calling pain normal. If you've ever been the dependable one, the fixer, the person who keeps the lights on for everyone else, I hope you remember this. Protecting yourself doesn't mean you've stopped loving. It just means you've started valuing your own life too. And if you want, you can stay here with me. If this story touched something in you, subscribe, not because you owe anyone anything, but because this can be a place where we listen without judgment and share without shame. And if you feel comfortable, leave a few words in the comments, even just "I hear you" or where you're listening from. Sometimes that small connection is what makes a heavy story feel lighter. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.